we are right now as a society.
And so, continuing with this analogy, this metaphor that you're using here, are you effectively arguing that white supremacy is so politically potent, it's so emotionally potent and emotionally resonant for white Americans and for politicians who are sort of tapping into it, that once they start doing that, they can't function in normal politics?
Yes, I really am saying that. When you begin to look at when white supremacy has really come to the fore as a full-blown operating principle in American society, as the way that the government just openly functions, then what you begin to see is that things go so far off the rails. The language that we use about American democracy is so far removed from the way that we are actually doing it. And so when I look at, for instance, I'll go back to the Republican Party and the Southern strategy. Here, where you had disaffected whites, particularly of the solid Democratic South, but also from the beginning emerging Rust Belts in the North and the Midwest, beginning to move out of the Democratic Party because of the Civil Rights Act, because Lyndon Johnson said African Americans actually are U.S. citizens for all intents and purposes. That movement, the Republicans brought that toxin into their party. And at first, it was just a little bit, a little hit every now and then. But as we saw, it became more and more virulent with each strain. Each time they took a hit off of it, it was like that the base became more, moved further to the right, more white supremacist, more rigid, more hardline, so that there was no place in the Republican Party for the moderates, for instance, a Nelson Rockefeller, for example. You won't find a Nelson Rockefeller now. That movement to the right is what led us into Trump. That trawling in the ground of white supremacy, that taking that hit, thinking that you could only be a weekender and dabble in it, but in fact it has taken over. What we have to do as a society is to begin to purge that out. It's like, we almost need a 12-step program. But the first step of that is to admit that we have a problem. That's the first step.
Carol Anderson.